Why, hello and welcome. It is I, your pal, J.Ishiro Finney, author and alien in a human suit. With me tonight is the ever lovely and buxotic.
Buxotic?
Yes.
Is that like quixotic? But
yeah, buxotic.
but buxotic.
Yes.
But this isn't an illusion though, or these aren't.
No.
Hi everyone, it's Kat, the night editor.
Okay, how about with me is, as always, is the heavily armed.
There you go. Also, these are attainable, at least for you.
Oh, attainable as in I get to. Okay.
Yeah, it's not an illusion like Quixote.
Oh, yeah. No, buxotic is different than quixotic.
There you go.
So we'll just say the heavily armed or
Heavily armed.
armaments, ordnance, heavy ordnance.
Tracts of land.
Tracts of land. Well, that's what I referred to them in Titanium Rain, was her heavy ordnance.
Yes.
And we are doing our Sunday Nothing cast, except it isn't about nothing tonight.
It's about something.
Shut up. Shut up.
What?
Wow, we're going to get a spicy cat tonight.
That's spicy. Me making a sarcastic remark is being spicy.
You're interjecting a lot, and you're sarcastic already, which is a very good sign. It means that you've got a lot of energy. You're going to be entertaining and probably really perverse.
Okay, well, as long as you're not like complaining.
No, I'm not complaining.
Okay, good.
I much prefer this.
Okay, good.
Much prefer this to when you're tired.
No, I am not tired. I am definitely not tired.
And we're going to be discussing Nausicaä, Valley of the Wind.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to give it a little time for everyone to roll in and get comfortable, as well as go onto your social media and tell everyone we're live. Because, as always, what do we like to say about YouTube, Kat? It sucks ass.
It sucks. They suck. The fact that they frequently do not let all of you wonderful people know when we're on, even after you have hit the bell to be alerted. Kind of means something.
Seems we're on a special kind of shit list, is what it means.
Yes.
So before we talk about a great movie, let's talk about a good graphic novel.
Case File Arkham.
And what is Case File Arkham, my love?
Case File Arkham is PI noir set in Lovecraft's world.
Written by?
It's on the tip of my tongue. What's his name? The short guy.
The alien.
The alien.
The alien wrote it.
Oh, you!
Yes, me. So, what is it? It is 1940s classic detective pulp noir set in Lovecraft's New England. That's right, the Lovecraftian New England, with monsters and ghouls and deep ones who run a mafia. And I like to say it's if you enjoy graphic novels where men are men, women are gorgeous, and hell beasts from the abyss do not come with trigger warning, go over to Amazon. Yeah, let's do it from Amazon. Go to Amazon right now and order both books, 1 and 2.
Yes, there are 2 books available for your reading pleasure. And we have had huge fans of Lovecraft who never were interested in PI fiction before come and praise it. We've had fans of PI fiction who weren't really into science fiction or horror come and praise it. So,
yes.
There's something for everyone.
And also just goes without saying, it's not woke.
Nope.
Nobody's going to get talked down to. In fact, the hero is a Irish Catholic, and he is the hero.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lovely woman with some really, really large knockers that we get to see. And if you like horror, it's definitely got the horror in it as well. Let's see. Let's get an appropriate graphic up before we move on to our next topic. I was hoping we could get Star Storyteller on us, but I guess on air with us, and unfortunately, I don't think she's going to make it. I guess I did not give her enough forewarning of when we would do this. If she pops up in the chat, though, everyone tell her to go check her email and jump online with us. Here we go.
Horrible Deep One Mafia. Make him sleep with the fishes.
Oh, God, I probably should have used that line.
We actually discussed it at the time.
Oh, and decided it was too stupid.
Yeah.
It was too cheesy, even though it would be funny.
Mm-hmm. But boss, my grandma wouldn't appreciate us dumping them dry-skinned bodies everywhere.
Well, they do actually at one point threaten to throw Flynn over a cliff into the ocean. Yeah, actually, the idea for a mafia in Case File Arkham that was essentially deep ones has a logic to it, believe it or not. In Lovecraft, Innsmouth was originally a bootlegger town. It was a town full of bootleggers, and who ran bootlegging?
The mob did.
The mob did. And it also made it very clear that there was a lot of organized crime in Innsmouth. So it only made sense in a 1940s noir that, well, the mobsters in that setting are
deep ones.
Are deep ones, or at least one of the mafias is a family of deep ones.
No, it makes a lot of sense, actually.
Now, granted, they are the hybrids that look human, but you get my point. I really get into that in book 2, by the way. You get to learn quite a bit about the Deep One Mafia and Big Eddie Finn, who runs the family. Because apparently in Lovecraft, it is not a surprise. Almost every Deep One hybrid that shows up, almost all of them, not all of them, have some sort of name that is kind of related to the sea or a pun, which is kind of rare for him. So yeah, was there any other questions before we get into talking about Nausicaä?
Did the main character in the one who didn't realize he was a deep one, but then slowly comes to learn that, did he have a fish pun?
No, actually, his last name was Pickman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. There were a certain number of names Lovecraft just liked using over and over again because it sounded like new money and old money.
Oh, okay.
Depending on if they were new money, he had a certain set of names, and if they were old money. I'm trying to remember. I think there was also a Pickman who ran the museum in Arkham.
Is that how
Raymond Carter?
No, the artist Pickman got his stuff shown, was like he was related to the curator?
It's never said.
It's never said.
It's never said. So I have no idea. So we have another question here.
Dark Stranger. Yo, dude. Didn't get to comment on your reply to my artist question last night, as I didn't want to prolong things as you both were tired. Oh, that's very considerate. But I'm glad you reached out today. Nice selection from both, especially I'm sorry.
French, right?
Yeah, it's Ledroit. Yeah, Ledroit.
Okay.
I'm slaughtering it. I'm sorry for all of you who know how to speak French. I know I'm not pronouncing it correctly. JEC, I kind of like Miyazaki's cutesy kids movies better than when he does more dramatic action films. Totoro is my favorite of his. Nausicaä is further down my list, but that's just me. Interesting. Dark Stranger, my faves are Terry Dodson, Joyce Chin, Dan Barrington, Oliver Ledroit. I'm totally slaughtering that last name. And Bud Root. Speaking of Root, is his character of Miriam Cooper from Cave Woman in your book?
Fuck yeah, absolutely. That's in the chapter of Jungle Goddesses and Wild Women.
Nice.
Haven't gotten down to the business of doing my research on the character yet. If you have a deep love of the character, I'd love to hear from you. I mean, one of the things I really want to get across in Breasts of Steel is that these characters are not just tits. They actually mean something on a literary level, on a cultural level, and on a personal level. These characters affect people. So yeah, I want to get as many testimonials as possible about how these characters affected people and spoke to them. I mean, if we can have an entire generation of young girls saying that Harley speaks to them, I think it's perfectly fine to say that there's a generation who felt the Cave Woman spoke to them on some level, even if it was just, I got my first boner reading about a cave woman, and now I've got a thing for women in leopard skins.
It's just as fair, really.
Hey. You knew I was messed up when one of my first boners was Cyndi Lauper, okay?
Why does that mean you're messed up? It just means you have taste.
Because she was really weird back then. I guess she was always weird. But I think that's a good sign. I think maybe that was just because I'm a gray.
To me, I'm just thinking back to my
Look,
very
Linda
young
Carter's
early-
kind of at the first of the list, okay?
Well, no, that's fine. No, it's just my young early childhood was the 80s. So my scale of what's weird is, I suppose, off.
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way. In the 80s, there were a lot of different women, in the new wave scene that were considered, very beautiful, or they're sex symbols. Cyndi Lauper wasn't really a sex symbol. She was the oddball. She did a lot of weird shit, like wrestle.
Yeah, that's
She
cool.
did pro wrestling. Her mentor was Lou Albano, I believe was his name.
Cool.
And he played Mario on the Mario show.
Oh, him!
The live action one, yeah.
Imagine if he played Wildcat.
I don't think that would work. No, I don't think that would work at all. Okay.
Kana, it's not about the boobs. It's about what's underneath, the heart. And the boobs are great too.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wolf, what I love about Miyazaki's work is the villains have this unassuming look about them. This calm and cool demeanor makes them even scarier.
Well, that and the villains are not one-note characters.
No.
There's real meaning to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
they're
Yang.
actual people.
Yes, Yang. Absolutely, Linda Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Captain. Oh, thank you. Look, okay, any mistake I make in regards to wrestling, I don't know much about it. I didn't get to watch a whole lot of wrestling. It was not allowed in my household. I had to be in someone else's house to really see the wrestling.
I would have thought your grandmother's house would have had it because your uncle was there all the time.
No.
Really?
No.
See, that's interesting.
Although apparently my great-great-grandmother really liked wrestling and had a thing for a character named Haystack Calhoun.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Seriously. But yeah, the most experience, I saw more the rock and wrestling cartoon in the 80s than I saw actual wrestling. But yeah. So yeah, feel free to correct me anytime you want on wrestling. But anyway, again, I repeat, if Star Storyteller pops up in the chat, tell her to check her email so she can join us on this talk. Now that we've got enough, we're 22 in the audience, let's talk a bit about Nausicaä, Valley of the Wind.
Mm-hmm.
First impressions.
Okay. I'm just going to get this out of the way. Going to get it out of the way. So I've said it and then I'm done. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But one thing I had to remind myself of when watching this film is I'm used to a very Western style of telling stories, especially telling myths. And it was kind of bugging me partway through because I'm like, okay, I'm really enjoying this. This is a beautiful story. It's very well told. There's something that's bugging me about Nausicaä. She's not a Mary Sue. What is it? And then it suddenly hit me. This isn't a Western story. It's Japanese. She's a Japanese hero. She's a hero. I don't want to say of the people because that's communist and that's not what it is. It's that she has devoted her life to serving her people. And that's a very specifically Japanese way of viewing things.
She's a princess.
Mm-hmm.
She's got this duty to her people, but she was also that archetype that we see a lot in not only Japanese stuff, but Miyazaki, which she is kind of this, I guess, semi-magical figure.
Yeah.
Who is a mediator between nature and man.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she isn't necessarily a whole person in a sense.
No. She's an idea personified.
Yes, exactly.
And right down to, she does have that moment where she questions herself, where she comes face to face with her own anger, which was very well juxtaposed with the way the Ohm react to humans in the world, and the villainess. I can't remember what her name is, especially the villainess, and how the villainess had kind of a similar moment that Nausicaä did, but where the villainess gave herself up to her anger, Nausicaä pulled herself back. And
well, I thought that was one of the moments she really changed. That was the growth moment. That was where she stopped being a girl.
yeah,
She was no longer a little girl. She had to become the princess of this village and become an adult. It was when she drew blood and realized she could take life.
mm-hmm. Exactly.
And then she had to go out and tell her people not to resist. So that whole moment also when the blood rolled down her arm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, stigmata symbolism aside.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That was another thing that got me. Now, I realize it's partially due to the translation, but partially not. And that is the amount of Western symbolism, the Western religious symbolism that popped up alongside the Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of a surprise. I mean, there are multiple Christ metaphors. And I know that I've read a fair share of reviews of the film saying that, oh, well, that was just inserted by translation. No, you cannot insert animated cells. That's actually in the film.
Yeah.
You know, there's the stigmata metaphor. There's the 2 times that she tries to stop violence, and they get the flash of her in a cruciform stance.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was really interesting. Come on. I'm trying to pull up the IMDb. Yeah, look, I'm still recovering from reading the fucking Golden Amazon yesterday. I'm going to stumble, damn it.
That's okay. Good Lord, they're making another Jurassic Park movie.
You know, I actually stumbled across another thing that I think we should watch later, which is that a performing company of kabuki actors did a kabuki version of Nausicaä Valley of the Wind.
Really?
Yeah, I want to sit down and watch it.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Okay, I'll be right back. I'm going to grab something.
Okay. Ishi is getting up to go grab something.
Oh, you've got comments.
Ah, we have comments. Let's go look at comments. I am scrolling up because it jumped. Let's see here. Haystack was a giant fat wrestler. That's from JEC. Sosa Bird. Miyazaki is like the guys who just watch trains all day. Except for him, it's planes. You know, that very well may be the truth, but actually, once you know that Mamoru Oshii does that, and then you see how much of that is in his films, no. I mean, really, you just watch Oshii's film and you see how much of it takes place with him, with characters riding on trains, riding on boats, and just watching the world around them. Specifically, Ghost in the Shell and Avalon have a lot of that. Let's see. Dark Stranger. I've seen the film and read the manga. I am all like Akira. There's pros and cons between the two mediums. One thing I liked more of the film was no psychic romance for life from first meeting BS. We still have not read the manga.
I want to.
Yeah.
So was he mentioning a difference?
He said that he's seen the film and read the manga, and he said, like Akira, there's pros and cons between the two mediums.
Yeah. Well, I'm very fascinated. I really want to read the manga now because very interesting was that when he started Nausicaä, he was a hardcore Marxist. And in the process of doing the book and putting his ideas on the page and trying to show this utopian village in of the wind where people are working as one, again, the common mistake of mistaking communism for communalism.
Mhm.
They're totally different. One's about killing and stealing people's shit. The other's about working together.
Mm-hmm.
In doing this, Miyazaki came to renounce communism and Marxism as garbage and horrible, and actually went back to Shintoism and started embracing a more spiritual aspect of life. And, I think that alone, that he had the courage to say, okay, I was wrong,
Yeah.
is really good. Well, then again,
it says a lot.
I mean, Kurosawa had to go to Russia and see how bad it was before he realized Marxism's shit.
Yeah, but he still came back and said, you know what? Yeah, this is done fucked up.
Yeah.
Or are you going to read?
Keep going.
Okay. This is from Yang. Japanese love to use Christian theology in all sorts of mediums, but they really don't understand it, so the references always come off stilted. I'd say it depends on who the creator is.
Yeah, I mean, Oshii almost became a priest. He was in the seminary. I mean, if there's someone who gets it.
It's Oshii.
And I do, again, find the merging of Eastern and Western in Oshii's work very fascinating. I mean, Ghost in the Shell's the real obvious one. But Sky Crawlers, I mean, that one's fascinating because that's got the merging of East and West. It's got Christianity and then again the Eastern animism and Buddhism. But then on top of that, it has existentialism. It's a fascinating story. I know that it's not for everyone. And the fact that at the very end, his plane gets technically crucified. I mean, so yeah. I have actually read that a fair amount of anime that uses Christian symbolism is actually a veneer so that they don't actually have to outright criticize the native religions. It's like, well, here's a symbolism that we kind of understand and it's not going to be controversial.
Well, then you get things like, Trigun that works in the Christian symbolism without you really realizing that's what it's doing. Specifically, the final battle between Vash and Knives.
I watched it once and it's been so damn long.
I remember this because I was young and naive and you pointed it out to me, and it was one of those mind-blown things where Vash and Knives are fighting. You have the two angel arms battling it out, and the light that's coming off of them is flickering back and forth to black and white in a yin-yang without breaking. Nothing is stopping the two. No one is over the other. And then, Vash pulls out of the earth Wolfwood's gun, which is a cross, and shoots the middle of the yin yang and breaks it apart.
Yeah. Splitting it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought was very fascinating as well. Now I remember what you're talking about.
So that's the thing is it's easy to say, oh, they don't understand.
Well, that's fair. There's a fair amount of...
And there is a fair amount of it. But things that have substance, I found that it's not that they don't necessarily understand. It's that they use the symbolism the way they use their own symbols.
Right. Yeah, and they're using the religious symbolism differently than a Westerner would. That is true.
I mean, yeah, that's true. The fact that they confuse Santa Claus with Colonel Sanders sometimes, and I do really mean that.
That's hilarious. Please show me an example of this.
Well, that actually started with the KFC ad campaign that started the whole craze of you must have KFC at Christmas. That was from an ad campaign that happened 1 year in the 70s. And ever since then, in Japan, it's not Christmas without KFC. And some, either ad campaigns or people, and I honestly don't know if it's something where they really are confused by it, but I know that frequently they will have Colonel Sanders and Santa interchanged.
Well, I do know that my father once took a business trip to Japan. I've told you the story.
Yeah, you have.
The katana story is oh God.
Wait, the katana story.
I've told you the katana story.
Oh, you have, and I'm totally blanking.
Now, it did not happen to him. It happened to a coworker.
It's the one that he cut off. Yeah, okay.
It was somebody above him.
Yeah.
And this was for Toshiba. They were in Tokyo, and the, I guess, director of sales or whatever for North America was meeting with one of the high up guys with Toshiba, and he had his family katana on display in the office. And he's like, "Hey, that's," he was fascinated by it. That's a real one, huh? And so the guy gets out the family katana and shows it to him, and he's pulling it out and showing the blade, and he drops it, and the American went to catch it.
Yeah.
And the fingers on both hands at the first knuckle were all just lopped off instantly.
Yeah.
Perfectly, like surgical cut. Now, they were able to be reattached because the cut was that clean.
But still.
But holy shit. No, not that story. No, the story was another one. They were shopping, and he came across a Christmas ornament that was a Santa Claus crucified.
And I was like, dude, I want that.
I kind of want that too.
I need that in my life just because it's so weird.
Oh, wait, one more comment to Yang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is right. I've read more than one compelling argument that Evangelion, that the Christian mythology in it is really just window dressing to kind of get across a far more Eastern set of symbols.
Really?
Yeah. And it really is just window dressing. And if you analyze it, there isn't really any Christian reference going on, or not much of it.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna speak blasphemy. I haven't seen cell 1 of Evangelion. I only know it because of the waifu action figures and the giant mechs.
You know, it is such a cultural touchstone for the 90s and for Japan. We really should.
Yeah, I know. I'm just not in any rush to.
Fascinating comment here.
Ricky, it took several watches before I realized her Curiform had different clothes. Cruciform.
Yeah, that when she took the cruciform.
Oh, that was in
pose.
The more white robes.
Well, they changed each time.
Yeah.
And the fact that her dress starts one color and then changes through the movie or through the ending, the third act.
Yeah, it goes from red to black to blue.
Okay.
Like the eyes of the Om.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because the way I've seen different spellings for it, but apparently the way it's spelled is like homage.
Yeah.
For in electrical work.
Yeah, OHM. Yeah.
Yeah, an ohm. But then it's also mirroring the meditative sound of om, om, and I believe it also has a onomatopoeia for kanji as well.
Oh.
So I don't know. I have to do more research into that.
Do you mean that there's a kanji for the sound?
Yeah, I think it's a onomatopoeia.
Interesting.
But I could be wrong. That one I'm not sure of. But yeah, it's interesting. Now, could be coincidence. I have no idea. What I wanted you to read was this.
Okay.
It's called Yasashi.
Okay.
Is the word. And from the blue all the way to the end here. Can you read that? Because I think this would help.
Okay. The keyword is Yasashi. In Japanese pop... Oh, this is from Anime Explosion by Patrick Drazen. In Japanese pop culture, solutions to incredibly complex plots are usually pretty simple and often come down to a single word, Yasashi. Yasashi people are warm without a hint of evil and malice, pure in their hearts, and blessed with those unique Japanese antennae, always sensitive to each other's feelings, which never need to be spoken. Traditionally, if a heroine is Yasashi, then that's enough.
And does that not describe the archetype that Nausicaä is?
Yeah.
That's her superpower, in a sense.
Yeah, it is, actually. And the fact that it extends outward, not just to humans, but to nature around her.
Mm-hmm. And so... Oh, I love this. That's a great comment.
Horrible. Westaboos. It's almost flattering what they think of us sometimes. I agree.
Yeah.
Yang, it's more common than that. There's tons of Christian symbolism in marketing campaigns and music videos. I had to work on a bunch of those when I lived there.
Oh, really? Okay, so you're far more informed than either of us.
Yeah.
I have come to learn that if Yang knows a subject, he knows a subject.
Yeah. Okay.
I've come across that more than a few times with him. Very well informed individual.
Did you see if perhaps it was more prevalent in one prefecture over another, like maybe in the south where they had the Dutch influence over, like towards
where
the
did
north?
The Portuguese set up their missionaries?
Well, the Portuguese came in from the west. Okay. Sorry, I had to quick figure it out.
Just think left or right.
Yeah. They came in from the west. And in the area actually where, quote, Jesus's tomb is.
Yeah, I love that one too. Do you want to give that story real quick before we move back to talking about this anime?
There is a town in a prefecture. I couldn't tell you where. I just know that it's by the sea on the western coasts, that they firmly believe that Jesus Christ did not die on the cross. Instead, somebody switched places with him, and that he went to Japan where he lived to the age of 103. And they say that his descendants are still there. And what's interesting is that the people of that area do have Western features.
Interesting. Very interesting. And just again, to make it very clear to all my listeners, because it's been a while since I've said this, genetically speaking, half of those genes are pretty much Irish, and my upbringing is more Irish Catholic, culturally speaking, than anything. That was the upbringing I got. So just keep in mind, I'm not an expert by any means. I can tell you more about Catholicism than I can tell you about this. And I didn't like that much either. I find it far more fascinating now, but man, as a kid, I did not enjoy it. To tell you the truth, it was, and I was also raised heavily on Greek and Norse mythology. I got more of that than anything.
That's cool.
No,
maybe it's because
your mom was a mystic.
My mom was a mystic. My dad was an atheist, and they sent me to a Lutheran school. So
Star, are you going to join us? I sent you a link. Hop on in. It's time to talk.
So I kind of see. I don't know. Again, I've always been fascinated and interested by religion.
Yeah.
And like I've said before, I actually, I'll never do it unless I'm invited, but I do
Hold on, Claire. I have to get the headset out, but here, let me invite you in. We can't hear you quite yet, so keep going.
No, but I do enjoy being invited to, people's places of worship so that I can see it for myself. So.
Well.
And I've actually only ever had one really scary experience.
Okay, here we go. And whoa.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
It's not me without any kind of specialness. What can I say? I'm an honorary boomer.
Oh shit. Don't worry about it. So, Claire.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you could join us, because as you were the one that really, really stressed that I have to watch this. You were the one that said, I need to see this.
Well,
and you were right.
What did you guys think? I just want to ask you that first.
Absolutely loved it.
Beautiful.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I really loved it personally. So I can talk kind of briefly. I don't know if you talked about it enough. It's actually also based on Nausicaä, who is from the Greek myth.
Yeah.
Who got
her name is
ditched.
Shipburner, right?
Yeah, she got ditched because she helps what's his head get away, but then she got ditched. So you could say she got caught.
Was it Odysseus or Agamemnon?
I think it was Odysseus.
Okay.
So
It's
yeah,
been a
I mean,
while.
I kind of understand. Everything was trying to kill Odysseus. He's just like, dude, I don't trust nobody no more.
Yeah,
But
the gods kind of had it out for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, but to be fair, so she got her name from that. But the biggest influence actually is the princess who loved insects, who was a real person in Japan. She was peculiar because she loved insects. She was unusual. She didn't dye her teeth black, and didn't care
that's a
about
huge
her.
faux pas at the time.
Yep.
Yes, she was just this weird, bookish sort of person who just loved insects, and she just wanted to study them all the time. And that's all she did.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this, go out on a limb here. I've dated more than a few young women that all have the story of, I was really obsessed with insects and spent my time with bugs.
Oh, why are you looking at me?
You and Joe both said that.
Oh, true.
Of course, Joe also ate the grasshoppers, but that's a Laotian tradition, apparently.
Well,
But anyway.
and also, if you're in North Korea, that's a great way to get protein.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Okay,
seriously.
No, it is. It really is.
Things I wanted to bring up. Now, I figured as much. I thought that this was probably the case, but apparently a big obstacle in the translation is that we don't have a word that truly matches kame, and that the concept of kame is very, very different than what we would, it literally means God, but it doesn't really mean God.
It's more like spirits, like kind of the spirits that do that. That's closer to it, I think.
Well,
so it's more animistic.
What I came across was that what I found the best way to describe it is it's kind of like the Force, in that everything has a kame nature. Kame is in everything, including inanimate objects, humans, the spirits, the gods, and that when you're in tune with it, you're kind of all working as a single unit, or you're in tune with the logos.
Kind of reminds, or like namaste, like how when you say that I honor the divine that is in you. Kind of Hinduism a little bit.
Well, and so apparently there are numerous times in the anime where they just weren't able to use that word to communicate what was going on. Which explains a lot. And then the other one that came to mind was, it just hit me when they said, we choose to follow the way of the sky and the sea, or was it the sky and the water? I forget. Which is literally the yin and yang.
Feminine.
We lost her for a second.
And
I'm still here. I'm still here. I just muted. That? Yes, I did. I'm just.
Your little one's a little rambunctious, isn't he?
Yes, we got him those little push things. That's why, like the motor, and it's like popping. Oh, now he's doing something else.
Okay.
So the way of, but yeah, this kind of more integrated perspective. I would say one thing also is that connectiveness, how he talks. Miyazaki was really into the environment, but not in the stupid, crappy way that we hate with hipsters.
Right.
He actually really loved the environment, and he shows this with her. And you know what I think is also interesting about Nausicaä is that she is a scientist. But everything, and I was thinking about this when you said, "Hey, come on," and I think this is about that what was the concept you were defining? Yasashi. I think a Western equivalent is like Mulan. It's her relationship with her father that inspires her to defy the natural order because she loves her husband, loves her father, and wants to save his life. And so that's kind of important. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that, and that interconnectedness, and that inspired it, instead of just, I love the science's crap that's been in Marvel and everybody hates it.
Well, it was almost like she was kind of with nature to begin with, and she was learning more. But just a few things that stood out to me. I mean, in a lot of ways, it felt like a merging of Dune, Lord of the Rings, and animism. And I guess, as you pointed out, Japanese mythology. There were a lot of Dune elements in there with the Ohm, especially, and there was even a moment where she sacrifices herself, and I'm like, are we going to get a Muad'Dib reference here?
Actually, what got me was her secret garden.
That too, yeah, that seemed right out of Dune, didn't it? I noticed that her color is blue throughout the film. That, like a lot of Miyazaki films, there is not a mother figure, but a father figure. That the middle-aged women tend not to be very nice.
Well, wait, middle-aged or older?
No, they are the crone, and they are respected in their order. They have authority, and it's actually true, because when women get older, their testosterone rises, and it actually works out, because men's testosterone is naturally going weaker, and they become more frail, and women live longer, so they need that testosterone in order to become like a protector of their husbands. So while their husbands protected them in life from danger and other things, as they age, it's kind of the role switches a little bit. If you look at hormone therapy and stuff like that.
Gosh, it's almost like we were meant to work in unison.
Oh, I know, right?
Another thing
made together, biological determinist.
Another thing that really stood out to me was there was the moment in which they're trapped in the toxic forest, and the insects are all becoming enraged, and the Ohm comes up to her and cocoons her in light. And I mean, that is the symbolism of literal communing with the gods, communing with the nature gods specifically, was I don't know that seemed like almost blatant, that point in the hero's journey where they commune with some sort of higher force. It might as well have been Moses going to the top of the mountain, and that she gives her life. Sorry for those who haven't seen it. Spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
She gives her life to calm the rage of the gods. And then
Christ analogy.
Then ascends upon a cushion of light into the sky and walks upon a gold field.
And also the fact the prophecy said it was a man, but it was a woman, that Christ came humbly, but fulfilled the kingly role. So that's another thing too. It's her humility that changes it as well, submitting herself to that. So it really mirrors it a lot. I mean, as a Christian, kind of looking at that, it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, actually. Because they didn't expect her, that unexpected savior kind of thing.
The other one I would want to bring up, and I think Kat has some good comments on this, was the tapestry at the beginning narrating the apocalypse, and then the toxic jungle, and the last image is an angel flying towards the toxic jungle, and then you get a match action to Nausicaä flying across the sky on her glider. And it's like, okay, look, the symbolism is beyond obvious. So it kind of really bugged the shit out of me that when I was reading all these kind of critical, explorations of the film, there was plenty of talk about the animism, but no one wanted to acknowledge that there's some really blatant Western tropes as well.
Yeah, I haven't studied enough to know a lot about Miyazaki, about the Western influences as much. I know he was also Mobius, I think, was another influence as well, if I remember correctly.
That's obvious, the artwork.
Definitely.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. But yeah.
For Nausicaä specifically, not so much his other films. I saw a lot of Ralph Bakshi in it. In not the way Nausicaä was depicted, but like I'm sorry, I don't know the characters' names, but
from Wizards.
The swordsman.
Yeah.
He definitely looked like he could have come from that absolutely gorgeous animated Hobbit or Lord of the Rings film. In fact, a lot of the people look like they came out of that.
And I want to say one thing too. Nausicaä was, I may have said it in the comments, but just to let you know, Nausicaä was initially a manga, and this was supposed to be his magnum opus, and he was never intending to make this into an anime, but everybody was like, we want Nausicaä, we like this, and he's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. So, by the way, that means go read the novel. It goes even more, kind of more in depth, and kind of goes beyond. This is only the first part of the manga, and it goes even further and deeper. And there's a little more subtleties there, as I've read the first half and a little beyond the film as well. One thing I do like about Miyazaki is the competency of his female heroines. They're very competent. You see her, while she has this empathy and kindness, she'll give you some lead poisoning if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Very like pioneerish. That's what I'm thinking, because they've lived independently. They're very much into that. Sorry.
So to you, she kind of reflects our image of the frontier woman. So you're still very much a female, but she's going to get out there with the axe and cut down trees or shoot guns if needed.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm remembering this is actually, a lot of it's modeled after his own family. So he lived through World War II, and a lot of the women in his family were really like very intelligent, very smart, and they actually had to do everything. And so he really admired women. And actually, there's a joke he gives at his animation studio when it was active. He gave a bigger bathroom to the ladies, and he's like, he's kind of a sexist that way. He gives more attention to the female animators.
Well, in all fairness, I'll be honest, that kind of actually makes sense, because men can get in and out of the bathroom a hell of a lot faster than women. I mean, you go to any comics convention,
thank you.
The men's room, no problem. Women's room, line.
Oh my gosh, it takes forever. I'm like, I don't know, people who are trying to transition to a woman, it's like, welcome to long lines. Oh boy. Well, I'm terrible. I'm sorry. I don't want to offend anybody.
I do.
Oh, I know you do, but.
So another thing I wanted to bring up, and this is kind of way off track. As someone who loves aviation, the love of flight in Nausicaä and the detail and design, it was very, very obvious whoever storyboarded and animated those scenes, they understood how planes worked, how they were engineered.
Oh, have you watched Porco Rosso yet?
I don't even know what that is.
Oh my gosh. Okay. The reason being is that's another one of Miyazaki's nerdy pursuits. He's really into flying. And there's a film called Porco Rosso, and it's kind of magical.
Pig, right?
Yes. And it's all about building the plane. Like he crashes it and he has to rebuild it. So it's really nerdy, and it's World War I.
I didn't realize that was his.
Yep, that's his.
So
because he's a big freaking nerd.
Well, getting into just a little more geeking out on the aircraft design in it, what I found interesting is just the beautiful detail they went into actually how the flaps worked, the fact that a lot of the craft were direct references to bombers used by the Germans in World War II. A lot of those, or the sky ships, were very heavily influenced by German design. The tanks looked very much of German design. Even Nausicaa's so-called glider, which wasn't really, functioned on the kind of engine that was used for the V2 buzz bombs, and it maneuvered correctly. It was very obvious that he must have a true love of flight, as I do. So I don't know. That stood out to me a lot, and the design aesthetic of each colony it was a little different too, which I thought was fascinating.
Again, it makes sense because that was his big, this was his big magnum opus that he really loved and he really designed as well.
So I got a weird question for the audience, because here we go. Larry here?
Larry says to acid trip.
Oh, this is to acid trip?
That's to acid trip.
Drop it. I noticed that you guys really seem to like it when I talk about Christianity and Christian mythology. What is it about hearing an atheist who doesn't disrespect your religion talking about it that fascinates you? I'm legitimately curious. Because to some degree, I always feel like I'm risking offending the shit out of you guys. But so far you like me, so good.
I think it has to do with the fact that not only do you respect it, but you try to understand like the underneath portions of it. And a little respect goes a long way.
Well,
I
strictly
think.
as a yep. Finish. Uh-oh.
No, I didn't have anything I wanted to say.
Oh, okay. Well, just the mythological aspect alone, and the fact that what really brought me around to respecting, even though I don't believe that respecting Christianity, was in my own writing. I kept finding myself repeatedly making allusions to the Bible and various metaphors and stories in it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm an atheist. Why am I doing this? Why does this keep coming up? And I realized because the symbols are still important. It's the backbone of our civilization. It's the backbone of our literature. Mm-hmm. And that I realized that these symbols and archetypes are so damn powerful, it didn't really matter. And that it was very, very important. So that's kind of, then Jordan Peterson kind of completed it for me. Here's one.
That's JW2 Harble.
Oh, it's another. Damn it! Stop doing it.
Larry, the man in a marriage is to Christ as the woman is to the church. He should lead or die for her if he must, and she should live for him.
Interesting.
It's not a metaphor for the apocalypse?
Oh, God, don't go there. She's referencing one of my cousins went really crazy fundamentalist Christian and got involved with this church that's a little bit of a cult, and his marriage ceremony was all about the apocalypse. That's all the minister talked about was the apocalypse, and that marriage was like the coming of the apocalypse. And
flat out compared the bride to the the red whore of Babylon.
Did he?
From what I heard.
I don't remember that part. I just remember he kept going on about Gabriel and his horn, but
apparently, that she'll appear in a red dress, and it's like, wait a minute.
So another thing that I wanted to bring up, where did it go? The color language in Nausicaä. There was definitely a language of colors through the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And you get the opening of the toxic forest or toxic jungle. Mm-hmm. And there's that scene where it looks like it's underwater.
Yeah.
And it's always blue. Its color is blue. And throughout the film, her color is blue till the end. Mm-hmm.
So, no, well, her color, she's got a light sky blue.
Right.
And then at the end, she's got the deep blue.
Yeah. So I thought that was very fascinating. And then, I can't remember the warlord's name who had lost an arm and leg and was part cyborg.
Yeah.
Had the gold going, and she was not a whole woman. And she said she was scarred up underneath.
Yeah.
The old woman, what was her? She was wearing black, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
So
Crone, death.
Crone, yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Oh, shit. Trenton.
Well, 50% of weddings do end in an apocalypse of sorts.
Would you like me to expand on that a little bit, or?
What, the apocalyptic marriage or colors?
We can do colors, or we could do the apocalyptic marriage, one or the other.
Let's stick to Nausicaä. I mean,
Color.
I think that's why
No,
we're here.
I actually have something very specific.
Okay, yeah.
So the blue, especially since we're talking about Christian mythology, well, not in mythology, but symbology, blue is the color of heaven. So and blue is sky. And again, I've said it before in a different one that if you looked at all the old Disney movies, all the Disney heroines like Alice and Wendy all wore blue. So it's still like almost and the Virgin Mary. So she is very much a virginal heroine. And she doesn't, and this is something like with Miyazaki, he created the moe. This is the prototypical moe thing. Although later on, he didn't really like it that much because it became like this weird, in his opinion, this weird fetishistic thing that he didn't like so much about it.
How so?
I'm trying to explain it. Like in the 2000s in the yachts, they had it really bad. It was like I don't know, maybe like more corruptible or something like that. I don't know, but I'm trying to remember. He then initially he kind of got to like his life where he kind of became like a bitter old man and was kind of like anime was a mistake or something. But maybe like it was more fetishistic or something about sexuality that he wasn't too keen on. Again, I think it's because he viewed them familial, because he based a lot of it from women he knew, women he respected, and he didn't like the idea of it being disrespected. He was kind of a feminist, but like more like second wave, not this whatever wave, although that's eventually going to be fifth wave. That's going to be return to tradition. At least that's my prediction. Or like, this whole OnlyFans thing, and you know what? Maybe we should go back to our husbands instead of being corporate slaves to their corporate overlords.
I made a mention in my write-up about Harley Quinn that in 70 years, feminists went from saying, stop treating women like children to, we want to be children.
Right. That's very true. And that's the thing. He doesn't really infantilize her. Again, she's capable. She's very soft. This is something I want in like the story I'm working on. I'm pulling a lot of that Isashi kind of elements. I won't talk about my thing, but what I mean is that soft heroine that's vulnerable. She's soft. She's approachable. Just instead of this hard, rigid, like I want to be a man, except but then I want to be my own man instead of being my own woman.
Yeah.
And she just is herself. Like it's just so cool to see that and like that soft feminine aspect.
What I think I've seen repeated in his stories, and I know you're more informed than I am, Kat, is what I see repeated in Miyazaki's stories is he's fascinated at that point when a girl's becoming a woman. It's not that he wants them to remain, it doesn't seem that he wants them to remain virginal, because there's always this, she usually meets a boy at some point. But he seems fascinated with the concept of heroines who are now making that journey over to womanhood, which makes sense because in the classic hero's journey, that was when the boy should go out and take his adventure, when he's crossing over to manhood.
Well, and it's interesting. It's kind of been, I don't know if you ever read Robert Blythe's book, Iron John, but a lot of, classically, even like Cinderella was originally a boy's story. I think it was Iron John. But over time, it's kind of been this sort of feminizing thing that's kind of gone more towards women as things have gone on. But at least from that perspective, it's actually a really good book. I want to finish it, actually, but I borrowed it from my brother, but he took it back.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he is interested in how they're growing up and how they're approaching it. And it's that idealization that it keeps the ideal. Whereas I think that, or maybe they were just cutesy, and he's like, no, they were more than cutesy. There was a strength. Like even his very first initial, like Castle of Cagliostro, she's a heroine who's like a very trad princess, very much pretty helpless, not doing very well. And she runs into Arsene. She runs into Lupin, and Lupin helps her throughout the whole story. But again, that softness, that very feminine aspect has been lost to us.
Agreed. Thoroughly agreed. So
Ricky says, when Nausicaa rescued Aspel, it wasn't spelled out that Princess saved the prince.
yes, but the difference being is Aspel wasn't a wuss and he wasn't incompetent.
No.
Nor was he a chicken shit.
Mm-mm.
You know, he was more than willing to give his life for her as well. So, I mean, that's kind of the difference from the crap we're getting
you
now.
notice that in, well, even like in the Renaissance period in Disney, you have like Ariel saves Prince Eric, and I'm blanking on her name. Esmeralda saves Phoebus. There's that equal, like, people equally saving each other, and I'm like, can we go back to that, please? Where we help each other in unique ways that, you know, it's not one dominating over the other, and then we or else we push it out, and then it becomes like 50 Shades of Grey.
Well, and you know, with that that happens in Aladdin as well.
Yes, and it's just like, hello.
So just out of curiosity, have you read Case File Arkham?
I have not.
Okay.
To be honest, because
Because it costs money.
No, it's not that. It's more of like leaving it around the house. I have a pretty, conservative household, and I'm like, I heard she goes sky-clad, or the Gilda does, and I'm like, in the second book.
In the second book, she does, yes.
I can't really have that around the house. I'm sorry.
The first book just has lots of violence in it.
Okay,
although
that's fine.
The skyclad, I will say I went out of my way to make sure that none of the nudity was pornographic per se. It was more I tried to portray it classy.
Mm-hmm.
It was more beautiful. It wasn't trashy at all. What I was going to bring up is in the first graphic novel, there is explicitly a scene where that thing happens where she actually ends up rescuing him at one point, and actually twice. And when I was asked about it, I was saying, well, she kind of fills a role in noir that we don't see anymore, that most people forget existed, which is that guardian angel type figure. That when the man throws himself too deep, gets that over his head, or just pushes himself too far, she drags his ass out of the fire. And I know that a lot of women, I guess, resent that, but let's face it, I guess that's very much a situation men are in where, okay, I'll be honest, it's reflective of my life, where I'll throw myself into situations where I am suddenly over my head or in too deep, and I've taken on more than I can. And my guardian angel pulls my ass out of the fire and says, hey, take a break.
Ezer Kago, that's the total, what Eve was called. She was the counterpart lifesaver. So that is Eve incarnate, basically.
Oh, okay.
That's what helpmate is the word, but it's like the better word is like opposite lifesaver is clear. It's because whenever Azir is used in Hebrew, it's the Lord is my help, and it's usually like, help, get me out of here.
But that kind of relationship. I mean, I keep saying, no, look, I'm not Flynn, Kat's not Glinda, and that's absolutely true. We're nothing like those characters.
No.
But that aspect of our relationship I did put in there. I wasn't intentional, but it just ended up there. And I think that's something, I don't know why that's looked down upon now.
I don't know, maybe
because it's a female who actually cares about her man.
So another question I wanted to bring up, just point blank. You said this character, Nausicaä, speaks to you. That it really spoke to you and had a deep effect on you.
Yeah, and I think it was because at the time, a lot of like anime fans that was kind of breaking into it, I could not find, like, a lot of people feel like I couldn't connect with some of them because of fan service. Not like, oh, if it's there, I can't watch it. Like, I'm not like, I'm not like certain people, like, meh. But sometimes there was, or there was something very soft, and it was someone who was strong and soft, and it was so rare, like that rare quality of vulnerability and softness with the determination and strength that is so, I would say, like, it really had an effect on me. She was the first character I cosplayed as, and I related to her and related to wanting to help people, wanting to that Isashi, that having your feelers out, a very much a caretaker heroine who's also strong. I think, and her strength feels very feminine. And I think it's so rare, and it feels like, and I'm not saying like you can't be, like, if that's not you, I totally get that. You don't relate with that. But for me, I think it was also a self-sacrificing. It's also that the depth of it is so different. And I'm trying to think. You'd have to ask a few more questions more specifically. I would say, like, not just her personality, but just she's peppy, she's cute, she has a cute outfit, and
She's fearless.
like, she is fearless, and she kind of has she's very intelligent too. Like we're alluding to before, she doesn't just love the sciences. She actually is thinking about it. She's relating. Also, she's connected to her people. That's another aspect. I know you're talking about the nature stuff, and that's cool.
Well, she has that duty as a princess. She knows that she serves her people. And
that's what I really also think we need now, because we live in like this globalized weirdness where we become the sovereign individual, but we're not thinking about the responsibility and all. Like, I was listening to, I think it's The Fourth Age. He talks about comics a lot, but he talks about it from like a study of that. What is it? The 5 values. I'm blanking on.
I couldn't tell you. I'm not familiar with this.
Oh, okay. No, I'm thinking. Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. But it's a guy who studied the 5 values, and it was like purity, fairness, care from harm, all this other stuff. It's like one of the intellectual dark web peeps.
Oh, okay.
But he was talking about, because he was trying to figure out hidden tribes, talking about the difference between a conservative, liberal, and libertarian, and what each one values. And what's interesting about conservatives is they tend to do a little bit of everything. And that integration of like loyalty to your people, wanting to uphold the purity, because if she doesn't, it's all going to blow up. The fact that that's why they are very sensitive about the toxins will kill you. So there is that. I think Jordan Peterson talked about how when you have diseases, everyone reacts. It's kind of like with COVID too. Everyone's like holds their breath. Kind of. It's interesting because when it first happened with me and my husband, we were watching it, and there was like this whole denial from like the left. It was really weird. They were pretending like, nope, nothing's happening in China. Nope. Probably because they're paid by them. And then, so we were like contracting, not wanting to, like, okay, wait. But then as soon as we were seeing, okay, it's not as deadly as it was, we relaxed. Like, me and my husband relaxed at that point. And our family, because we were like, well, we can't live in fear forever. So it's almost like Nausicaä was trying to figure out, okay, when is it safe to go in and to understand. She was kind of that exploratory thing, but it still it's like almost like a conservative and a liberal combined together. Do you understand what I'm trying to say a little bit?
Yeah. Well,
like
I would say the thing that I appreciate about it is it transcended. It wasn't. It had heavy things that are usually considered political. It wasn't political.
No. Obviously, no. It's out of his heart. What was out of Miyazaki's heart. I'm not saying that, but kind of like the value system she had feels a little old-fashioned, because it is a responsibility to her people, responsibility to the environment, because if she didn't fix the environment would kill everything. So she was actually trying to get to the root of the issue. Okay, what do we need to do because they've just been surviving for years in this one little pocket, and they'd figured out, okay, an existence, and how do we expand it? so you could purify it. So that's what I liked about her. That she was realistic. Oh, here it is in a nutshell. She was realistic about her world, but still had the heart to want to push for the best of both worlds. There was that heart of, we can do this better.
Well, Kat and I were discussing quite a bit after the film, Kat, that she was a mediator between the two worlds.
Mm-hmm.
She stood between them. How'd you put it?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I think it was something that I thought you were the one who said it.
Maybe I said it was that she was a mediator figure, that she could speak to both worlds and was trying to make peace between them. And yeah.
And it's because of her femininity, it's because of this relational. Everything out of her was relational. And I think that's the problem with modern female heroines. They're not relational. They're very they're trying to pass a Bechdel test to yeah, I know, sorry. But
I know, that's fine, you're right.
They're trying to pass something else, and it's like, no, that's not how women are. And it doesn't matter what orientation you are, what there's still this, like, or even if you're not like have a lot of friends, there's still an aspect that is relational. It just maybe women that aren't as social, they're more choosy about how big their group is, if that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. And what I think also is a major thing that's missing from the modern heroine, which Nausicaä definitely had. If you could grab my drink.
Okay, I'll get you to drink.
Ishi will be right back. But one thing that Nausicaä definitely had, which modern females in fiction don't, unfortunately, is understanding sacrifice, and that anything that's worth doing is hard.
Go on your rant. Do it.
Which rant?
About this.
Oh, okay. I don't think I'm going to, because he left.
Can I rant?
Of course, definitely. But let me just finish my thought. And I'd like to point out, like, one of the first scenes we get of Nausicaä is when the swordsman brings her, the cute little creature. I'm sorry, I don't know what its name is. And he says, look, watch out. It's it's a wild animal. It's vicious. It's probably going to try to tear your hand off. And she's saying, no, we don't need to be scared. We don't need to be afraid. And the little creature bites her and holds on, and she just toughs out the pain and keeps her cool and eventually wins it over. And it's like, that's the mission statement of the whole film. And that is what makes her character so much better than everything else that we're currently seeing today, is that she understands sacrifice and that things aren't going to come easy.
Okay, my rant on. Well, not really a rant.
Yeah.
No, it was actually a flying. It was a fox squirrel. Was what it was called in the dub, at least.
Fox squirrel. Okay.
Yep. And so, in a nutshell, basically, to go on with Kat, there is this element of not being able to endure sacrifices, and kind of this idea of everything is about not causing harm, but it's not really about other people. It's about my triggers. It's about not causing harm to me because I got triggered because you said something. Like, instead of giving it up something, like for me, I work, I have a side gig where I deliver food, and I wear a face mask because although I'm not sure it does anything, or that medically, if we're not, you get whatever the CDC says goes. I gotta cover your butts. Yeah, just between you and your doctor, whatever. But because of that, even so, I still do it because I know that people are probably ordering out because they might be elderly or immune compromised. Yeah. So even though it bugs me, part of my service is preferring other people in that way. So sometimes when I'm wearing the face mask, I'm not doing it to make a point or whatever. And in that point, I want to serve, and I want people to feel like, okay, this food will be safe, at least within my care. Let me put it that way.
Going back to your bit about relationships, the two of you were talking about before I left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is because of what I'm writing, I have read so many reviews of Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey movie. And the two things that I keep seeing repeated over and over again is, oh, well, unlike men, these stories are about girls and their friends. It's about women together. It's about women's relationships. Men don't have movies like this.
Yeah, they do.
And then the other one is,
you just don't see them going out for cheesecake.
The Band of Brothers.
Right.
A whole mini-series about them nearly dying, getting their head blown off.
Rather than
World War II.
Yeah. Black Hawk Down.
Black Hawk Down, yeah. So, Kat, what do you make of that? How they keep talking about, oh, well, it's about Harley and her friends.
It's as it always is. It's like, here's a character that you can map yourself on top of. What is it that we keep hearing? Harley gets to do the things that you can't do or girls can't do. And it's like, so that involves stuffing your face with lots of food and blowing people up because they pissed you off.
Yeah, the number of mentions of how much that she gorges on food was a little odd.
Yeah, no, it's the Harley is for the viewer to map themselves on top of, so they can act as childlike and as immature and as violent as they want with no repercussions.
And the other phrase is, she's allowed to make mistakes. Men are allowed to make mistakes. They're like, no. What they're saying is that Harley's allowed to do evil things and not be responsible for it.
Yeah.
Actually, this reminds me of Camellia Paglia. Have you heard of her?
Oh, yeah, I know Camille.
Yeah. Well, she talked about when her mother was growing up in Italy and how all the women would do life communally. They would go, like if it was wash day, everyone would they would gather all their laundry. They would go down to the springs and make a whole day. They bring a picnic, bring the kids. And it was a very communal life. And she said something very interesting. And she said, post-feminist world, women have lost that. They've lost that responsibility of communing with each other, going to do stuff. Closest we might get is like maybe you have a workout buddy. You might have maybe PTA if you have children. But a lot of women are putting that off. They're going to work. They might get some of that from work, but it's not the same as when your house is your own domain and you're actually bringing that. And so it was this very old, very ancient. You were integrated with all the older women in their families. Like it reminds me of my dance community. We did sacred dance, but in that community, we talked about everything, and I mean everything. So we would go on, we did some small, trips together, that sort of thing, going to a different area. But within there were these quiet moments where we talked about relationships. We talked about men. We talked about all this different stuff. And that community of doing something together, like if it's a volunteer group or if you're going and doing something, I get glimpses of that because at my church, we help a lot of different people. So one big thing that we do together is like helping people with move and that sort of thing. And when you're together as a group like that, it's really good. But what Camellia Paglia was talking about was there's a loss of that. There's a loss of, and women know that. That's the thing. They may not know why, but they know that they've lost this connection to from mother to daughter and together, because ultimately it's to destroy. Well, was it Pat Boone? He may have been wrong of some things, but he said, make them socialists, kill their children, divorce their husbands, and practice witchcraft and become lesbians. It's terrible. I mean, was he wrong? I don't know. He wasn't. I don't think so. But what I mean is it's not all bad, but I don't know. I'm kind of been looking and it's like the destruction of the family breaks women from female communities. So we're not connected with our families as much or as our communities. And so that's why I think they push like LGBT, all these other political activities and all this other stuff to make up for that lack of it. And when women don't build a community or ultimately don't marry, they're kind of left adrift. They're, I think an older feminist said, it's a young woman's game because people pay attention to you when you're young and beautiful, but when you're old, they don't. You're kind of alone. You're a lonely cat lady. So that's my thought.
Okay.
I guess it depends on where you are in this country, because California was totally different when I lived there. As far as the female, the female community, and I'm just gonna say it right now. Being in a more conservative state, being in honestly a more religious state, I'm actually interested for the first time in getting involved in like women's groups or other things like that, because they actually seem like they are about being social. California, from growing up there as the daughter of divorced parents, it was about, it was about breaking up the family unit and finding a new group of women to get your female knowledge from. But it was as much as I do love her, it was my mother who did it. It wasn't any outside influence. It was my mother deciding. Now, she had her own reasons, and I understand where she was coming from, but she said that she didn't want my grandmother raising her children. She felt that my grandmother had done her time raising 4 kids, and she didn't want her raising her child, especially after the divorce. But as a result, though I did get some good influence from my grandmother, I didn't get that familial contact. My mother kept me away from my dad's side of my family, and my dad's side of the family was not interested in fraternizing with me much because they didn't like my mom. So it was the family unit itself tearing that apart. So there was only outside influences. There was only the Wiccan Circle and other places like that that was left, really, and that greatly influenced my, I'm gonna say it flat out, hatred of the sisterhood, of having anything to do with any female groups. Now, like I said, now that I'm in a community.
No, we left communism.
Yeah, a community of conservatives. There we go. I'm actually interested for once, because I know I'm not going to have an agenda pushed on me.
Well, a woman's gun club is a little bit different than the Wiccan Circle.
Well, gun club. My cousin has been talking about a lot of the spinning classes that she knows are going on, and
spinning,
weaving.
Oh, okay.
She spins her own yarn.
Oh, okay.
So there's spinning
stitch and bitch. Well, yeah. Not quite.
Oh, you'd love my cousin. She used to raise goats. She used to raise peacocks for their eggs. She doesn't have the land for it now anymore. But no, my cousin is definitely on the frontier woman side of things. She's great. She's actually one of the main reasons why I wanted to move here. But yeah, knowing that I'd actually be with like-minded women who want to get their hands dirty makes me interested in joining one of these groups. But in California, oh fuck no. And it was self-imposed. It was self-inflicted. It was no outside force tearing apart that unit.
And I think that you are a unique kind of woman. I mean, no. You're the rare woman that I will say was born to hang out with men. Your mind, the way you're wired, your desires, your interests. I would say there's probably
The
somewhere
fact I'm saving my pennies to build a forge in the backyard.
there's some evolutionary imperative that maybe it's like 1 in every 10 women or so. There seems to be that certain personality type where they're kind of born to hang out with men.
Mhm.
And it's weird because you're the real deal, and there's so many phonies right now trying to claim, oh, I'm a tomboy. No, you're not. No, you're not. You just hate men. If you were a real tomboy, you'd like men.
Yeah.
Well, to kind of go again on what Kat was talking about, kind of in my situation, I'm working with trying to keep the familial ties even with my ex's family as well. So because when my son was being transported up, he my ex wouldn't stop when he was crying, and he was very young at this point. So what I did was I would bring him up with his grandmother, paternal grandparents, because then they could watch and care for him. And it's Adam Lane Smith has been talking about attachment stuff. Man, he's got everywhere. He's like on Modern Wisdom and like a lot of places. And you guys got it first. That's so cool. Anyway, sorry. Moving on. But just that being with your grandparents, it does attach you. But again, Camellia Polly was talking about how because you had the old women who all had children, a lot of them probably even, so they kind of knew, oh, you're okay, your period's coming, your water's probably gonna break within, and they're like, you're probably gonna have a boy, and they're just like this very intuitive, weird network of stuff. But for me, it's really important to have them be connected. So that makes me feel much better that I'm not just, because on the same hand, I know there's some things that are not as healthy with his family, but I'm also like, I want to do what's best for my son. And that makes me feel so much better that I'm doing that. I guess a good mom is if you feel guilty.
Well, a good mom is recognizing that even though the parents may not get along, a child still needs both parents. And the
Right.
fact that you've spoken a lot about, how many stories do we hear now of the woman, running off with the kids and then teaching them that dad is this horrible bastard?
I know, and it's so evil. It's not good. And we're really trying not to do that. Sometimes we, because you're human and you're trying not to.
Yeah.
But I want to be honest, but also be like, I point out the good things. Like if I'm talking with people, I say, well, he pays child care on time. He
That's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot, kind of like the thing of like, okay, he's on time, he's timely, we don't get in as many fights now, so I guess it's better that. And also I think I'm a little unique only because I didn't initiate the divorce, my husband did. So that's why the situation's a tad bit different. And I won't go into that because that's too much laundry. But again, that connection, even in Miyazaki, bringing it back to Miyazaki, you have the older women, all these old women who bring wisdom and knowledge and just all this really and also they're kind of cantankerous too, but you learn from them, both men and women. And that was one thing that really disappointed me about the new Star Wars, was not getting that Luke to mentor a female apprentice. What would be different? Like, would she be a little more cautious about it? Would she, looking at Rey, because Rey learned to scavenge on her own, would she have to learn to trust him a bit more? There could have been so many things, and they just wasted. No, they just wasted. And this hatred of having men mentor women. And it's like, no. And I say this because I had a mentor in my life growing up who was an older gentleman and really invested in my life. And, I want to see more of that, of the father figure and all this other stuff.
And going back to Miyazaki, I've noticed there's always a father in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not a bad guy.
Yes, bring back dads.
Except for Spirited
2020.
Away, but neither of her parents were in the
Okay, no. In Spirited Away, they were shitty parents in general. They were just neglectful.
They're modern
That was Gen X.
parents.
That was the Gen X movie.
That was the
neglectful
Gen X movie. Yes, I agree.
Actually,
Chihiro.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, but also the problem too was not just that they weren't sensitive to the spirit world. It was also them, and I think that's more the modern world too. We've over materialized everything to the point where we don't open ourselves up to the possibility of the impossible, or that reality is weirder than we think it actually is. This is something I've been thinking about too, is how, the people who talk about, oh, don't say those words, that hurts my feelings, but they don't live that way. Like liberals don't live that way.
Mm-mm.
Whereas I've noticed more conservative people, they're thinking about, at least the way I was brought up, we think about how our words affect people. We know words have power. We know that God spoke things into existence and then things came, or actually, technically, he sang it into existence, because that's the tradition of that. Like cantors, the people who read the Torah, they actually sing it. It's sung. So that, so the words are important, but reality is way weirder. And so the fact that Chihiro's parents were just going about breaking taboos and then ultimately coming under it, even if they were innocent of it, it's still bad. And so a lot of, like, you'll see there aren't a lot of horror movies with haunted houses with a lot of Asian protagonists, because they notice there's something weird about this place, we gotta go, there's something wrong. They just kind of like, ooh, sorry.
So you were going to say, Kat?
Oh, I was just gonna make a comment about that.
No, I want to hear it.
Okay.
We love to hear it, Kat.
Okay. I was just gonna bring up besides Spirited Away, my very first Miyazaki film was Totoro, and what really got me was, their mother is in the hospital. In fact, she's kind of on death's door. I forget what exactly, was it tuberculosis she had?
TB, yeah.
Yeah, it was tuberculosis. And
she was recovering. She wasn't quite on death's door, but she needed to be hospitalized for it, for sure. That's why they moved out to the countryside, because they believed it was better for their lungs.
And the older daughter, whose name is totally escaping me at the moment, I remember May, the cute little one. But the older daughter, what I thought was interesting about her was, while mom was gone, she took on the burden of being the woman of the house. That she was going to take on those duties, and she took care of dad, and she did her best to take care of May. And it was kind of like she was shouldering an adult's burden at an early age. And it was May who kind of told her, look, yeah, you may be needing to grow up, but don't forget about being a kid.
Is that why you relate to it so much, taking on the adult burden at such an early age?
Mm-hmm.
That's why it spoke to you?
Yeah.
Care to elaborate or no?
No, just there's all these instances where she takes care of May when May runs away. She she's the one who's the responsible person. She just how much you watch her very quickly go from being a kid to almost an adult to back to being a kid again, in the course of the film. And just that's kind of the message of, even though there's all of this stuff, and you have all these kids, especially since Miyazaki survived World War II, and he did see all these kids have to grow up overnight or shoulder the burdens of adults. Just this idea of, don't forget that you're a kid.
I think that's a... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that is a great note to end on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're going on an hour and a half here, so
I know we're trying to. It's usually there. Can I give a little plug for Scars? Because I've read it and I really love it, and I really want to do more for you guys. Because
thank you.
that,
Sweet.
yeah. So Scars. Oh my gosh, and I'm not a sci-fi person, so I'll put this. But it was probably the most moving little novel I ever read. Like I was bawling and like happy crying. Um, like
Sorry.
crazy throughout this whole thing. Um, I was left crying, and it was really interesting. It felt realistic too. It felt more like speculative sci-fi fiction. Like this could be in the next 50 years. So I would say that's I'm trying to do this without spoilering or doing that sort of thing. Um, yeah, and all the relationships felt very realistic and really cool, and you got to see the rat and kind of it felt very rat like, and it felt like you could see this really be there, and I could see this being a little sci-fi film of some sort as well,
Oh, that would be
and
great.
or like even an animated one would be kind of cool.
That would definitely work as an anime or a
Oh
short
my
anime.
gosh.
Um,
Yes.
well, the bit about the sci-fi elements, a huge chunk of the science fiction, the science in it is real. Or I took something real and just slightly pushed it further. Those quotes throughout where I have like books and news quotes to break up the paragraphs or the segments of the story, the mini chapters. A lot of those are real or based on real quotes. So yeah, a lot of the science in there is real, and the whole thing about rats being used to find landmines and sniff out tuberculosis, again, absolutely real. And yeah, as I think I've said before, it was having a rat and just the insane amount of help it was to my post-traumatic stress, and um, learning that some of these little guys, I mean, they're obviously in a weird phase of their evolution, and that's partially due to us. But these little guys some of them are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. Apparently, they're up there with Indian elephants. And when I was realizing the rat was trying to tell me things was when I was like, holy shit. And just, yeah. I knew there was a story there that had to be told. And
So it's the best 99 cents you will spend at all. It's so affordable. It was healing. I think that's the word, because I was going through kind of a rough patch myself. Not saying it, not guaranteeing this will happen, but I thought it was very cathartic and beautiful, and it really spoke to me. And I want to make sure I actually bought it because I read it through my free Kindle thing. So if you have a free Kindle thing that you just
you
want to
can read
give it a
that free.
read, yeah, so that too as a possibility. I need to actually buy it though. I have some money now.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you, because I've asked a few people, if I made it available for print on demand, would you actually buy a 49-page book?
Yes.
That's the only reason I haven't put it on print on demand is it's only 49 pages.
I really would. You know what? I would buy it.
Okay then. Well, you know, if you guys want, have you ever heard the show where I talk about it?
I think so, because there's been different, like you've talked about it in different spots, and you've actually read it like during one of the workshops.
Yeah, I read a part of it.
Yeah, and you were explaining like, okay, how to do action beats. That was one of them. But
Well,
yeah,
here's the other thing I'll bring up, and I realize this is totally way off topic.
it's okay. We're plugging.
Yeah. The thing about James having a horrible time trying to talk to people and feeling like he can't really say things with people having the whole idea that no one even knows what the hell he's saying when it comes out of his mouth. That's totally real. I feel like I'm watching. I don't feel like I'm part of humanity. I really don't. It's like, for me, I feel like I'm observing, that I'm not really part of what's going on around me. And for whatever reason, that Zed, that little rat, made all the difference and got through where others couldn't. Zed was the rat that inspired it. Hence Max.
Yeah, and it was really good. Again, I just can't. And then yeah, I don't know if you maybe you need a goal like if we do 100 good subscriptions or something like that, or
I would love to have 100-star reviews. If 100 people, I've got like 32, I think now. If I can get that number up to 100, I think it'll get the story noticed.
it's so good. I mean, I can't help but it was amazing.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and yeah, it was just very cathartic and moving. And you know the quotes that actually was how I was trying to write a story of mine. So it was like, oh, that's cool. That is really cool. So I thought that was like, oh, so people actually do that.
If you want to talk on Wednesday in the writer's room, I can discuss that technique because I love using that technique.
Oh yeah, that is that also in your another book I need to read. I have it in my thing for the other book.
Death or Grease Paint.
No, the other one I was thinking of what was the Kami book where it was all the kaijus.
Oh, World War Kaiju.
Yeah, I was wondering if that's in there as well.
Sorta. God, I think the term's meta history.
Mhm.
And we'll discuss this Wednesday.
Let's discuss this Wednesday. Okay. Yeah. Anyway,
right,
I know you're trying to get out of here.
Well, we're
right.
going on a 100 hour and 40 minutes
You
now.
still need dinner.
Yeah.
All
So,
right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
I gotta.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
I just was lucky it kind of worked out that way. So you guys have a wonderful evening and thank you all chat. I'm sorry I can't really interact with as much because I can't read it and I just do it on my phone, but I appreciate all you guys and all the comments even though I can't read it.
All right, good night everyone.
Night.
Night.
Okay, I think Kat's gonna go